Foolish humans, we will show you the true meaning of immortality. We will take your puny mortal forms and take your flesh and add it to the biotransference. And while you go through the flesh metal process to become the Necron, you will listen to the podcast Chaos Divided by Nurgle Schnurgle and Blushing Noise Marine. In the name of the Imperial Dynasty of the Necron, I order this to you. Listen and enjoy.
Erebus.
Welcome to Chaos Divided, your weekly dose of Wholesome Hammer. If you're a fan of what we do, we hope you'll subscribe and follow us along. And if you'd like to support us directly, you can find us on patreon.com/Chaos Divided 40K. This week, we're continuing BloodGod's book club with
The
False
books.
Gods by Graham McNeil.
The second book in the series of the Horus Heresy.
The second of 4,000 books.
Yeah. At least the second of the first four that you should just read in order. Then after that, just have a ball.
Just have fun.
Yeah, just let your curiosity just go into the depths of Warhammer lore and be surprised at every book that you read.
Or be weirdly autistic about it like I have been and read them in order and never know what's quite going on or what sequence of events is happening or what happened last or every book's an adventure.
You're trying to read them in order? That
I have read them in order up till this point. I am on book 43 and I have read them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
I think I may have just had a small aneurysm. just seeing, just in my brain is the little chart of how they're all connected, and I'm just like,
no, you just read them one after the other as they were released with no consideration for what happens before or after them. Sometimes it's a prequel, sometimes it's a sequel, sometimes it's very far in the future, sometimes it's right after, sometimes you don't even know
what's going on? Not at all. Am I enjoying the story? Yes, I am.
And to get us into this, our quote for today was, "I was there the day Horus fell." Which I felt like it was a nice mirror to our quote for the first book.
Yes. Mirroring how he slew the Emperor. LOL.
I was there the day Horus killed him.
So, in reference to that quote, what does that mean for our book today?
Well, this is where... Actually, we were talking a little bit about this beforehand. This is where we start getting a glimpse of chaos. Like, we start interacting directly with chaos as a force. But in kind of a sneaky, wraparound... way.
Twisted kind of way. Which
Yeah, like
seem normal.
Compared to 40k, this early chaos is definitely far more organized and planned out than I think we're used to.
Yes. They're definitely a lot more organized than we're used to in the 40k universe, and then there's definitely a specific reason to that.
Do you think maybe Abaddon, it's actually a future version of Abaddon who organizes the Horus Heresy? Maybe that's what he spends his time doing?
No, I think what it is exactly what happened with... Well, the Emperor made the biggest boo-boo. He turned against the Chaos Gods, or he just didn't fulfill his end of the bargain that they made, because he did make a deal with them to get whatever this power was to create his 20 sons. Or daughters. Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun.
But because he did that, the Chaos Gods did something that really goes outside of the realm of what they normally do, which was they all worked together. They all came to a agreement, and they worked together to basically go after the Emperor for not fulfilling their end of the bargain. Which is why I think we see a lot of these demonic entities and incursions and battles happening within the 30k universe of the Horus Heresy. And why it's so organized is because they're working together. You have, I believe I was talking about it a little bit earlier, I kind of alluded to it. I said in the previous show that Samus, on paper, is a demon of corn. Yet the transformation that Jubal went through was of Nurgle itself. Now, it could have been that I thought it might have been just a mistake, but it may not have been. It may not have actually been Samus. It could have been another demon that was taking over the body, and Samus was the one that was whispering. It could have been a lot of different things.
I honestly think we often talk about like Chaos Undivided. I feel like it's often a like Games Workshop rules kind of shenanigans, but the more I've thought about it, the more I think what we actually see through 30k is Chaos Undivided, and not in the sense of like Be'lakor, who is both neither and all of the Chaos Gods' power. Like, we actually see chaos working together. So yeah, I mean, we could have Samus, who is portrayed as a demon of Khorne often, but
very much so.
Honestly behaves more like a demon of Tzeentch. And
the way he like portrays himself, how he whispers through, that could be right there. Khorne and Tzeentch working together. Tzeentch using the powers to whisper into the minds of humans, and then Khorne using Samus to send that message out because he's a Runestorm demon.
But even he doesn't speak in riddles in the same way. So there's like plans within plans in the way a demon of Tzeentch would act. But there's also a bit of honesty and forthcoming in the way that a Slaanesh demon functions. And then you have somewhat the physical appearance of a Nurgle demon. And also Samus is frighteningly resilient in a lot of respects.
Yes, extremely resilient. And he actually pops up a couple more times in the Horus Heresy novels, and actually what I think is his true form in one of the books as well.
Yeah, but I think he has aspects of all four, and I think that is part, because if you also think back, 30k is only 5,000 years after the Eye of Terror opens. So Slaanesh is still a relatively, though the gods are timeless, still relatively new amongst the Pantheon.
Yeah. Because I believe Slaanesh's birth woke them all up, because they were kind of like they were sentient, but they weren't like actively doing a lot of stuff.
I think it was the conflict that was created by the birth of Slaanesh that kind of roils chaos a lot and sort of pushes them to be far more active actors.
And if you also look at it,
Well, I was just going to say, but I think at this point too, you also have, they aren't as so delineated either. They're both fighting amongst each other, as they always are. That's what the great game is. But they also have greater threats than themselves, which they don't necessarily have in 40k.
Yes. Well, I think later on they become their own threats. Like you say, the great game is what drives them later on. But the 30k universe, I believe the reason they're working so closely together and why they also did this was Slaanesh was birthed. It woke up the other three. They're on an even playing field. They're working together through the Horus Heresy to make this whole thing happen, to where they can turn the future into an endless war of struggle where they can continue to have souls. Throughout the Horus Heresy, they're choosing their factions, they're building their forces, they're building their own followers. Though they're working together, they're all secretly doing their own thing, grabbing the World Eaters, grabbing the Thousand Suns, and then when it finally came time, they brought the hammer down on Horus. They all split, and now they're running their own domains and trying to collect as much as possible. And I think that's when the real true game began. They were just collecting all their pieces for the game. And Horus
they
was
also
the
have an enemy.
Yep.
The Emperor is the only being that truly challenged. Like, the Eldar lived relatively free of chaos up until their fall. Because they were in such control and they knew what chaos was, and I think that's probably why you see, chaos is somewhat disorganized prior to that, and not as necessarily the degree of a threat, is because the Eldar were most of the battery for chaos, but they also knew how to keep them in check. That's why they they literally had to create a new chaos god, because they were not falling to the other three. But the Emperor is as we saw in Age of Sigmar, he's similar to Sigmar. He's a god of order. And what can chaos not abide but an entity whose pure will is order and structure?
Yeah, that's probably why he was able to go into their realm, beat them at their own game, and make that deal.
Yeah. And I mean, what the Imperium turns into also just ends up turning him literally into a god. So
yeah, well, the Chaos Gods also know that he, like you said, he's the only one that has the potential to challenge them and maybe bring them down, which is why they made such a focus on the Emperor in the Horus Heresy. The whole Magnus thing, that was their move to remove him from the game.
Mm-hmm.
With the Emperor removed and out of play, we can do what we want. We can twist and change and corrupt and force and do all the terrible things that we want, and he will not be a part of this until the very end. And by the time that happens, we'll have him.
Actually, I just finished the Crimson King recently, and I learned how they get Magnus to go traitor, and it's somewhat interesting.
Oh,
well,
I'd love to hear about that sometime.
His souls shatter.
Yeah.
When Lehman Russ breaks his back, his souls shatter, and they collect every shard of his soul except for one, which is his hope and his goodness, which gets locked in the throne room on Terra, the one place the Thousand Sons can't find it.
Mm-hmm.
Which forces them to go to Terra because they want it back. But that's also why the Magnus of 40k is such a devious bastard. And then but in 30k, he's this I don't know, folksy, hunky-dory, go do-gooder the whole time. And it's because they literally, the part of him that represents his hope and humanity is the one part of him that's missing.
Sitting in the throne room.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Right? Which also means the Emperor had access to a piece of Magnus, which also might, yeah. I haven't read the next Thousand Sons book, so I don't know how that all unfolds. But yeah, that was an interesting little revelation. Because Magnus is in this book, but Magnus is the worst heretic in that he didn't want a heresy at all. And it's really the Chaos Gods basically force Magnus to be a traitor.
Yeah. They completely Tzeentch really focused in on him throughout the whole process, but yeah, they forced him. They put him into a corner. They gave him all the options. Tzeentch gave him stuff to basically fulfill Magnus's ends, and when it was all said and done, and he was about to die, all they had to do is just say, "Yeah, just come with us. Say yes. I helped you out before. I helped you out before then, even though you broke my neck." Still helped you. Mm-hmm. And your brother's about to kill you.
We'll do a new planet. But yeah, this all starts... really, False Gods is where the Chaos level gets turned up to 9. We're not at 11 yet. We're at 9.
It's now begun. To be at least shown in the open, at least.
So we know, coming out of the first book, Horus he's a proud guy. He's a proud guy. He's a stressed out guy. He's got a lot of weight on his shoulders. And we know that they have set a course to Davin, which the Sons of Horus the Luna Wolves had brought into compliance 60 years ago. And they are the one and only planet that has rebelled against that compliance that the Luna Wolves brought in.
Yes. But up until this point, they didn't know that they weren't compliant just yet. They had only gotten the signal to come to the planet from, guess who? Our favorite legion.
The Word Bearers.
Yay. Yeah.
Well, our favorite word bearer, too. The bearer of the word that everyone loves.
Yeah, because he was the one that showed up in the Rhino. It was his personal Rhino transport that was coming to the dropships to meet them. They could see that coming from a distance, Erebus. Why? You can feel it. You can feel it in the narrator, just putting that level of feeling into the Marine's reaction, just Erebus. Just complete, utter disdain.
When you're in school or working or any kind of forced socialization, there's always the one guy that everyone's just I don't even know what's wrong with this guy. I don't want to be around him. And Erebus is concentrated that. Like he walks in the room and you're like, ugh. It's like the temperature
He's the physical
changes.
manifestation of that creep feeling you get.
Yeah, and like if he wasn't a space marine, you would probably call him a lecher. You know what I mean? Like he's just like,
Oh yeah, absolutely. He would be that. Yeah, he would absolutely be the lech, the creepy guy hanging around people that you just shouldn't. That guy that's gonna like make that really weird sly deal with you. That just that look on his face of like, you're gonna screw me over somehow, aren't you?
yeah. Erebus is the type of guy that used car salesmen go like, I wouldn't hang out with that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, but he'd be a good car salesman. That's the worst part. He's good at what he does. That's why we hate him so much.
He's somehow the least charismatic influencer in the entire Warhammer universe.
He's a D&D character that didn't bother taking intimidation or persuasion, but deception just maxed out as much as possible. Only deception.
But it took a bunch of feats to have advantage on it, but actually has like an 8 charisma. So just like overcomes it every time.
No matter what.
You're like, there's no getting past this.
No. So yeah, he shows up and all of the Marines from I believe now they were known as the Sons of Horus, no longer the Lunar Wolves. After they've had the battle with the Interrex, they were renamed the Sons of Horus by Horus himself. So they all show up on the planet.
I mean, at the encouragement of the Emperor.
Yeah, at first it was the encouragement. Horus didn't want that. He'd even confided in his brothers before that I would not be so bold as to name my sons after me. That just seems really pompous. But then after the events that had happened, he changed his mind. Said, okay, maybe it is time to do that. It was a representation of his status and his, like, what was the word they used? His status and his authority. Yeah. Among the other legions. So now the newly formed Sons of Horus show up on Davin. They're there for the ceremony, and Horus is starting to begin a speech. And he's talking about Davin being a compliant world and I don't think he was giving it too much praise, like a little bit of praise like Horus normally would, but then all of a sudden, Erebus butts in and says, actually, War Master, that is incorrect. Davin is not compliant. That set everybody off. Like, oh, my. I think even, Horus Axeman even put his hand on the hilt of his sword like he was going to draw it and cut Erebus down for uttering such absolute nonsense. Like, how dare you say that this world is not compliant? It was brought to compliance by the Sons of Horus, the Lunar Wolves. How dare you?
Which also just, I don't know. Horus Axeman is always just a little twerp.
He is, even later on in the Horus Heresy. But Erebus did point out it was true. I can't remember the man's name, but the governor of the planet that was left behind by the 16th Crusade, which was Horus's crusading fleet, he said that he had turned traitor and he had went to the moon of Davin and renounced the Emperor and Horus's authority completely, and that sent Horus into an absolute rage.
He's a mad guy.
Yep, he can be quite temperful if need be. And he, after which, declared that he was going to have an entire force strike the moon and bring, that's his name, Eugen Tember back. Well, not back, but he was going to deal with him, and he would go there personally and deal with it himself. I remember Ezekiel saying, War Master, who shall lead the spear tip? He looks at him and goes, I will.
Well, Angron is also there, right? Angron shows up?
No, Angron's not there. It's just it's just Horus, I believe.
Sorry, Angron shows up later.
Yes.
But yeah, they go down to the planet and they basically they bring compliance in a rather but more aggressive than their usual.
Yeah, so they brought the full spear tip of the Legion down, which is all the companies line up and they go right down into the planet with the most powerful ships at the front. They head straight down to the planet, land on the moon, and right off the bat, there's something a little bit strange about the moon and twisted. I can't remember if they described the moon as being a lush forest, but it had kind of turned into almost like a noxious swamp.
Yeah.
Everything was dead. Like there was just like gray rock. There's no plants whatsoever. All the trees are dead. Some like slime dripping from them. All the water has turned to this like green brackish liquid.
You could almost describe it as nurgly.
Very, very, very nurgly. Even as they move forward through the mists, they notice that there were bodies floating in the water as well. And I
think they're even they're like bloated too. Like they look distorted, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, several of them were bloated, distorted. Some of them were like not only distorted and bloated, but the other ones were like very like rictus and just almost dried out. But the one thing they all had in common, I think it was Tarek or Loken that turned the body over. They found that on the side of their patch, it had the symbol of the company they belonged to that was part of Yugen Tember's company that was left behind on the planet. So these were Yugen Tember's men. They figured that out pretty quickly, which kind of seemed weird. And not only that, but when they landed on Davin, they also started to hear those whispers again. But it wasn't the same as the Whisperheads where it was Samus. This one was far, far creepier. When Gavio Loken took the helmet piece and he listened to it, it sounded like it was saying, "The ways of man are folly. All shall give in to entropy and death. Such is the way of Nurgleth," which we know is one of the names of Nurgle.
This is
pretty blatant right there.
It is pretty blatant, and it's one of those like we talked about this with the last book. This book is very rewarding if you're a kind of a long-term 40K fan, because this is really like, I think back to when I started reading them, and they were still fairly new. We were kind of uncovering this was like almost like an archaeological dig, and you're like, oh, this goes like deep. Like we are messing with like the Chaos Gods directly.
Oh yeah, I always loved the like re-listening or rereading the books and then getting further into the lore and the game itself and coming back and having those realizations and making all the connections. It just
even the way it's described, it's almost described like as the voice of Nurgle.
Yes.
Like it is very much like, grandfather's blessings upon you. Like, there is, you can feel that Nurgle is like staring at this planet right now. And that, the eyes of the gods are upon Davin. And
they're watching everything that's happening right now.
Yeah. And you very much know, like, you can feel almost the weight of prophecy and like the weight of history as you're going through this, because this first part, they're just kind of like, they're treating this like they come in, oh, we're gonna bring this planet back to compliance, and it's kind of the same thing as when they were the Whisperheads of like, what is going on? Like, why? The universe that they understood is making less and less sense every time they leave the ship. Basically.
Yeah. And it's putting a lot more things into question, especially for Gaviel and even Tarek to a point. Not as much, but a lot for Gaviel. He's like really questioning a lot of just those natural feelings and thoughts that he's had about the legions, about like his loyalties, everything. Everything is being put into question for them right now.
Yeah, well, even Torgeddon, he very much like, we talked about him as kind of being the class clown last time. But for whatever reason, him and Loken often end up together in all of these situations, and they tend to be the spear tip. They're the front. They're dealing with like the problem head on, And the two of them it's almost like the Jim from The Office look. Like, I feel like they're always just looking over at the camera. Like, is this really happening? And they're kind of like,
what is going on?
Because it almost seems like by the time the rest of the Mournival shows up, and by the time the rest of the like Legion shows up, the weirdness always ends up being like a little
less, or even almost like done or dissipated completely, and they're just in the mess of everything that's happened afterwards, and they have to like describe everything. But everyone's like, it's really weird. They all seem really cool about it. Like, they just went through all this crap, and the other guys are pretty just chill about what they've been told.
Yeah, it's a very similar situation where now, like, Torgadon's now there. Like, Loken faced the Whisperheads alone, but now Torgadon is there, and they're going through this swamp.
Yes.
And is it at this point that they get attacked?
Yeah, right about now they're walking through the swamp, and they're having a conversation about just how strange this is, and suddenly a bunch of the bodies burst out of the water and start grabbing at everybody, and it's all of the dead men from the original Legion of Yugen Timber. So we have our first look at Poxwalkers in the 30k universe. All of these guardsmen pop up. They're very clearly all zombies because they're all dead, and they're just clawing and pawing at the Marines and trying to drag them underwater and ripping at the seals of their armor and just trying to get inside. And they're all freaking out. But then there's something else. Other things start creeping out of the mist. They describe them as humanoid in shape, with a horn poking out of the top of their head and one single eye in the center of their head that was almost like milky white colored, almost like cataract. I can take one guess at what those things were. Bodies were rotten, guts were falling out, they had boils and sores all over them. The only thing missing out of their hands was a plague sword.
So we have both Poxwalkers and Plague Bearers.
Yep. First demon actual demon that shows up, Plague Bearers, in the Horus Heresy novels. And they don't know what to make of this. They're fighting for their life. Torgadon's getting pulled down into the mud by like one of these things, plus a couple of dead guys. Loken's trying to help him. Horus Axemen's fighting these things off. There's screams coming across the Vox from all of the other, also the guardsmen that are with them, because these Solar Auxilia had gone to the planet with the Marines, and they were all being killed and attacked by these creatures. And there's mist everywhere. The entire planet's covered in a thick mist, so they can't see what's going on. Their vision can't penetrate it, and all they hear is battle and screams going on around them. This is horror film, like, moments.
Well, on top of that, they brought friggin' Titans with them too.
Right? Yeah, they brought the full force.
When I said that they came to bring compliance, like, the Legion drops, they drop the Legio Titanicus with them, like, there's Warhound. Is there a warlord on the planet at this point?
I think it was 2 Warhounds, 5 full companies of Marines, and a full, I don't think it was a battle company, but it was something smaller for the Solar Auxilia that landed on the planet.
But yeah, because
they came in force.
These Titans can't see anything because they're literally, it's a fog.
Well, the Titans can't shoot anything either because they like the risk of shitting their own men as well. I think even Horus was having a hard time too with like vision.
Yeah.
And that's saying something for a Primarch.
Well, yeah, they've got super duper eyes.
Yeah, Space Marines have like mega eyes. Primarchs have super duper mega eyes. Yet none of them can penetrate through this mist that's just veiling everything. Meanwhile, they got little grubby zombie men and plague bearers jumping out of the mist to grab them.
Well, and in true Nurgle fashion too, I think their armor is even, I think, somewhat corroding, and when they do have the seals ripped, men are dying inside their armor.
Yeah.
So
I think that's one of the first times they actually had a few losses on the Marine side.
Yeah. Since murder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because realistically, the Sons of Horus generally go around just kind of like bombing in and not actually. They fight, but they don't really lose.
No, they're more of like, well, they actually describe themselves as such. They're a spear. There, you throw them at the defense, they penetrate through, make a gigantic hit, and then everything else just wades in after that.
Sons of Horus confirmed mortal wounds.
Yep, straight up. That's what they should have. We are the army of mortal wounds. So
yeah, there's I can't remember her name, but she comes down. One of the Titans shoots her out of the sky, and that creates almost like a beacon. The Sons of Horus rally around, and they end up beating back these like zombie undead humans, which then allows them. They take out a broadcast tower, which is when all the undead kind of go inert. And we were talking about this earlier. This is where I actually think that there's you can kind of see the Chaos is working together, because that's sneaky. Yes. And Nurgle is never sneaky.
No, it's not. That's like the broadcast tower they destroyed when it went down. Yes, all of the Nurgle guys and all the things went down and died too, but we know that that wasn't the actual reason why they went down. We know that once Yugen Tember was killed and Horus was stabbed with that sword, they were like, all right, cool, job done, just wait. And okay, they destroyed it. Everyone chill, play dead. I mean, you are dead, but play dead, but just lie there.
But yeah, that's Nurgle's MO is not usually you killed the technology, now my plagues don't work.
No, that is straight up Tzeentch whispering in Nurgle's ear going, okay, you're gonna do your thing, and then as soon as they do what we want them to do, you're gonna get all your boys to lay down and just play dead.
Right.
But they're already dead. Just level with me here, okay? This is gonna be a really good idea. I know we don't really agree on most things. This will work, okay? It's gonna work. Wait, let me check my notes. I think this will work.
Plans within plans.
Yes.
But yeah, that's where you can kind of see like you see the gods acting almost antithetical to how they act in 40k. Which does somewhat, I think, support the idea that, we are dealing with chaos undivided here. Even though it has its shapes and forms, they are working together. And yeah, in the aftermath of this, the Sons of Horus discover that Horus Lupercal, the man with the plan, has been wounded and went down hard.
And even how, think about how he went down. It wasn't just that he got stabbed with a sword. So Horus and several of the captains made it onto that ship, and they all kind of split up in different directions trying to find Yugen Tember and the rest of the group. One Marine did find Tember, and when Horus showed up, I think it was Verulam Mar who had found Yugen Tember first, and he was killed, cut down. Horus walks in. Yugen Tember, a man, now very clearly corrupted in some way, because it said he was bloated, sores on his body, very similar. He had this almost watery gurgle to his mouth, to his talk. His skin was like a pallid green, hair was falling out. And he looks to Horus, picks up this large sword in his hand, which I don't understand why Horus didn't recognize what it was right off the bat, seeing as how he's a Primarch, but he's literally holding the Anathame blade that Erebus gave to him. Because we all know from the first book, at the very, very end, Erebus was down in the bowels of the ship, and he opened the lid to the case that had the Anathame blade that he stole. So we know that he went to Davin ahead of the Legion, handed that sword off to Tember, and did whatever he did to start the corruption on the planet there, and had that fully set up for when Horus showed up. So Yugen Tember steps forward. They start going at it. And this right here, what I like to point out is this is a taste of the power of chaos. This is a man. Just a man, and not even just like a young man, but a middle-aged man in his late 40s who is squaring up against one of the best Primarchs out of all of them when it comes to melee combat, and he's holding his own.
Yeah, and I mean even the worst martial warriors amongst the Primarchs can kill squads of custodians.
Right?
You know,
It's
like
not hard for them to do.
Lorgar against, Trajan Valoris. Trajan's dead.
Trajan Valoris, it might give them a run for their money, but they're still going to win that fight. It's a Primarch.
Exactly. So Horus is one of the best among them as far as a warrior. And for some dude to not just instantly get meat pasted, realistically, like, Horus has guns that shoot rounds of a similar size to this guy's head.
Yeah, that should be able to murk him in a second.
Yeah. So, for any human to not just, like, immediately die is pretty ridiculous. But we get a bit of a hint, too, because he, I believe, Temba renounces chaos, though. Or he admits to it.
He does, yeah. When he's finally, like, cut down by Horus, you can get a feeling that he does renounce it. He didn't want this or didn't mean to do it. I think they all just pumped the powers into him. He did lean more towards Nurgle, but all 4 of the Chaos Gods pumped their power into this one little man for a very, very short time. Not enough to make him into a demon prince or a chaos spawn, but enough to have him be, like, on level with a Primarch so he could get that one attack through.
And that's really where we do get a bit of a mirror of Horus's eventual demise, because we all, like, Horus sees what happens to this guy, and we know later on Horus drinks the Kool-Aid.
Yep.
And
well, he's right at this point. He's kind of forced to drink the Kool-Aid because that's what I don't think he would have turned traitor as easily if this moment didn't happen. Because, like, later on in the Horus Heresy and even in the 40k universe, we find out that Anathame blade has another ability besides the ability to not just whisper into the blade itself the name of your foe and have it be their bane, their existence, like it will kill them in one little touch, but it also has the power to transform, well, not transform, but turn someone to the will of chaos. It's almost like a chaos hypodermic needle.
But I guess what I'm saying is, Horus sees that the Chaos Gods giveth and the Chaos Gods taketh away through Tempa.
Yes.
Like, he gets to see, this guy can be so juiced up as to be an opponent of mine, but that he can also be reduced to nothing in the same moment.
It's kind of like he's looking at himself.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And I think it's going back is kind of interesting to start exploring that like, we talked about this with the first book. Horus very much is given all of the information to not fall to chaos.
Yeah.
And then does it anyways.
Yeah, he was given a lot of opportunities and a lot of information to protect him from chaos. I think Horus knew a lot more about chaos than probably anybody else. Like, He was the closest to the Emperor. The Emperor probably confided in Horus about some pretty dark stuff. He openly admits to Gavio Loken there are entities in the warp who would have you believe that they are gods or demons. I think it's demons. They're not. They're just energy. It's nothing to worry about.
But even that is a more nuanced understanding than we know Magnus has. So Horus knows more about the warp than Magnus has been told. Because Magnus talks about the entities as the warp almost as like animals. And, some are frightening, some are. Them. But Horus does attribute intelligence to them.
Yeah, he does give them a bit of sentience and says, like, these things are intelligent beings. They're not just beasts and creatures.
Yeah. So we don't know how much Horus knows, but he definitely is given enough of the signs to know what's going on here, and kind of, and I think that is part of the role of the Anathame Blade, is to push him over the edge so that he lowers his guard.
I think so too, because like, the Anathame is used again at one point where we'll get to that book at some point, but someone does try to use it on another individual to turn them traitor. They even state that this will corrupt you and bring you to our side. You'll see the light once you have been touched by this thing. So yeah, that blade definitely pushed him over the edge and put him into a state that the Chaos Gods could twist and talk to him, because he passed out. He got stuck in the shoulder.
Yep.
The Marines, and especially the apothecaries, were just blown away by, like, it's such a superficial wound, but his vital signs are failing. He's dying in front of us right now.
Yeah. Well, and one of the struggles with Primarchs is only the Emperor knows how to actually treat them.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the apothecaries even says to Gaviel, like, his physiology is so different from ours. I don't even know where to begin. Like this, I don't even know what I'm looking at. What is that? What is this? Is this a heart? I don't know what the hell this is.
Which also means none of the Primarchs ever get any type of medical attention. They're just like, the Emperor was so confident, like, I couldn't have made him any better. They're either gonna keep going or they're just gonna die. Whatever. Like.
Yeah. There's probably some of the, well, I know definitely Fabius Bile was probably checking out Fulgrim as much as possible to be like, let me learn more about what's inside of you.
Yeah, it's mostly just because Fulgrim was into that, though.
Absolutely, he was into that. Absolutely, 100%.
Fabius, I love the way you touch my liver.
Yes. Oh, look at that. It's time for my afternoon tea and disembowelment. Fabius, where are you? I'm the subject today.
But yeah, so Horus goes down and he goes down hard, and the sons of Horus lose their minds.
Yeah, they go through a level of panic that I don't think anybody has ever gone through when it comes to Space Marines and the Legions. They got him back to the ship, and they carried his body to the medical ward for the apothecaries. They also trampled, I don't know how many civilians, and killed people.
I was about to say, carry is nice. I think they bull rushed his body through the ship.
Yeah. People just getting slammed aside. Like, you basically had 6 trucks carrying a freight train running through hallways, and humans got in their way. I don't need to describe what happened to them. You could just, it's
Abaddon was one of them, and he wears Terminator plates, so... You know, what I described getting run over by Space Marine, like getting hit by a Kia Rio. Yeah, Abaddon would be getting hit by a Humvee.
Yeah. Just, I'm imagining it's like watching a game of Pac-Man, but instead of the Pac-Man, it's just a bunch of Humvees, and there's this trail of blood smear just through the game as you play on.
And that's
all that's left. There's no people. It's just smears.
Yeah, I mean, there are some wounded. It's like the ones that weren't directly hit, they had just bodies thrown at them. They are the injured. Because this is also where we see the first distribution of the Lectio Divinitatis.
Yeah.
Because the wounded are given the words of the Emperor as a god.
They are spoken to about it. I forget who passes that information to them, though.
Is it Euphrates Keeler?
That would make sense. Yeah, she was one of the first people that would start talking about that.
Yeah. But yeah, so the Horus is roasted and toasted.
In a coma.
Loken and Torgadon actually stay behind to figure out what happened. Or they go back.
Yeah, they went back.
They go back after they brought Horus up.
Well, Verulam Moy actually went with them as well, because he wanted to see the place where Verulam Mar died.
And what do they find but the Anathame Blade? Yep.
And Gaviel knew what it was. He recognized it right away. He's like, what the hell is that? He even he picked it up and said Tarek's name, and he could feel a twinge in the blade when he was holding it in his hand.
Yeah, and he both immediately recognizes it and immediately realizes that Erebus has betrayed them.
Yeah, he knows Erebus is involved in this 110%.
And in true Erebus fashion, what is Erebus up to? Getting the rest of the Legion to side against reason and entrust Horus to A Serpent Lodge.
Yeah, hey, well, yeah. We'll take him to the Serpent Lodge. No, well, he needs medical attention. Trust me, they have a ritual they can do. We can save your Primarch. We just need to take him to the Lodge of the Serpent, and everything will be fine. It wasn't fine.
Well, and this is also all decided in a lodge meeting.
Yes.
And this is part of the role of the lodges, because, the imperial truth is what is upheld at this point. There is no chaos, there is no magic, there is no rituals, there is no gods. So why would a bunch of Luna wolves, freshly repainted as Sons of Horus, entrust their dying Primarch to something called a Serpent Lodge?
Desperation.
That's how scared they were.
Yep. They saw their Primarch, their father, dying on a gurney. And at that point, like, most people would probably do just about anything to save him.
Well, because I think the alternative was to go back to Terra and have the Emperor treat him. And they knew he wouldn't make it.
No, he wasn't going to make it. Nothing not. They may have stabilized him, but the apothecaries had stated, like, he's not, like, we can't keep him like this for a long time. He's going to die.
Yeah.
So Erebus has the plan. Let's take him to the lodge. They have rituals that they can do to, fix this. We can remove whatever this obvious poison is in the Primarch.
Oh, Erebus. Just so
Sneaky.
bad. And they do. And
he capitalizes on every person's, like, weakness and emotions and stuff. That's his MO.
But he's also created all of these circumstances. Like, when people talk about, oh, Erebus sucks, it's because he causes so many problems, and then also creates more problems out of the problems. Like he's like the most toxic person.
Well, he's the creator of this whole thing. Him and the other dude, Corpheiron, they're the ones who made the heresy happen. It's those two. Everything that's happened in the entire Civil War, you can equate to those two whispering in somebody's ear and doing what they do.
And everyone blames Lorgar. That's how big of, like, dickheads these guys are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it really wasn't Lorgar's fault. It was them. Like, yes, Lorgar could have just said no, but I mean, it's kind of hard when it's your dad who's, like, raised you as a kid and taught you their ways on the planet and has their hooks in you since the day you came out of your pod. It's really hard.
Well, we talked about this when we talked about Angron and Guilliman before. Angron, yells at Guilliman because he basically, he lands on a planet with a caring father figure and resources and concern. And, Guilliman is basically given every opportunity to become what he is. Lorgar lands on a chaos-infested planet, and he has, like, Chief Manipulator 1 and 2 raising him.
Yeah, just literally Chief Manipulator 1 and 2. I like that. That's the perfect way to describe those two.
And, like, he doesn't have a hope. And, like, he literally, like, Colchizian is literally a language rooted in, like, a demonic language. Like, he's literally, like, born speaking, eating, breathing chaos. And, Erebus and Corpheiron are 100% leading that charge. Yeah,
Lorgar almost had nothing to do with it. The man went through such a existential crisis and doubt and emotion through the entire heresy. He was worked like a puppet by those two.
Mm-hmm.
And once they got their, like, sorry,
I was going to say, and in this book we see how they did it, because we see how they do it to the Sons of Horus. You keep these people in this state of perpetual, like, terror and panic, because they're Space Marines. They don't have fear, but they can panic.
Yeah, they can panic and they have needs. And he's like, if I create a need and put them in a state of panic and I give them the solution, well, they're not going to give me any resistance whatsoever. They'll basically, I will play them like a fiddle.
And thus, Horus gets brought to the Serpent Lodge, which, if we know anything about a Chaos God, snakes is Slanesh.
Yup. Yep.
Just
Yep.
every time.
Never fails. So they bring him into the lodge. They lay him down. All the Marines are asked to leave. You can't see the ritual we're going to perform.
Except Erebus.
Yeah, Erebus is allowed in there. Now, in actuality, it's like, only I can perform the rituals and know the proper rites. In actuality, he's like, I'm going to pour blood on your dad and perform a whole bunch of hoodoo voodoo and summon some demons, and he's going to work for us. But you guys need to leave because I can't let you see this shit.
Right.
Because it's going to be some shit.
Well, and Horus has basically, like, the dream trip sequence through all of this.
Yeah, the Horus is on the ground, passed out. Erebus is wiggling his fingers over, like, above him. There's a horror just swirling around up in the room. There's a bloodletter over in the corner just banging his sword on the wall. 2 demonettes are twerking in front of him. A plague bear is just yelling.
Yeah, and they work over Horus to the point that he wakes up thinking he's dead.
Yeah. Well, he woke up inside the realm of chaos, and he's like, I guess this is the afterlife.
Yeah, and because who shows up but Hastur Sejanus?
Yes, his favorite son. Above all, favorite son.
And guides him through and tells him, what he needs to hear, and
shows him the truth, shows him the future, the Emperor's plans, what is going to happen, all the statues, everything.
Well, hilariously shows him how many Primarchs get taken down by just showing them what 40k looks like. Alfarius Alfarius and Omicron get taken down by the same thing. Magnus also does.
Yep. So it's Horus, Magnus, Alfarius, Omegon. That's 4 so far. Kurz, technically, he was doing that since day 1.
Doesn't see that far into the future, but he does see the future.
Sanguinius?
I don't know if Sanguinius saw 40k.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it's right. Those 5.
Yeah. So how many times
they could show that? And there's like, what are those?
Chaos has one trick, and it's just showing them 40k.
Yeah, we're gonna show you a worse state than you're in right now. Prepare for this. Get ready. You ever seen a Tyranid? Check this out.
And yeah, so they show Horus a shrine world dedicated to the God Emperor and his 9 loyal sons, and Erebus spins this whole tale about how the Emperor abandons the Great Crusade and just instead seeks apotheosis and tries to become a god.
I like to believe that in my mind, it's very much like the Nightmare Before. No, not what was that? The Tale Before Christmas? Doesn't matter. I like to believe that Horus is like floating as a ghost up in the universe.
Oh, like a Christmas Carol, like
yeah, the Christmas Carol. He's like it's like the
Scrooge?
Christmas Carol, and he's like Scrooge. He's over the planet. He's showing him the shrine world. It's like, look at this. See what the Emperor's created. Meanwhile, there's 4 other planets around with each of the Chaos Gods just destroying the fuck out of it. He's like, what's over there? And the demon goes, no. Pay attention over here. Don't look in that direction. Stay over here. I'm showing you this planet. Ignore those. Don't look at those. We're looking at this future, not that future right now.
I'm here to show you. I'm the ghost of Imperium's future.
Yeah. This is a buffet. We're cherry picking right now, right?
Right. Because and I've always pictured as like, Horus shows up on like, this planet that's just like all gold and statues and suffering, just like, enormous amounts of suffering.
So a church.
Yeah. Well, because even at this point, the Astronomicon doesn't feed on Psychers yet.
Nope, not quite yet. They're not quite to that point. Ow.
Yeah, so like the idea of like just ritualistically sacrificing humans is not part of the Imperium. There's a lot of death, there's a lot of war, and there's a lot of like, soldiers dying. But the like idea of like ritualistic sacrifice and ritualistic torture and like state-sponsored violence to this extent has not happened yet for the Imperium.
Yeah, so seeing all that.
Yeah, and Horus is like, whoa, Dad's gone off his rocker. We can't let this happen.
But then this is the only part of the Horus Heresy that irritates me. Like, there's a lot of things that irritate me, but this is the one that really, truly gets under my skin. Magnus shows up. He shows up in the realm of chaos, in the Sea of Souls, as he calls it, and literally tells Horus, this is all a lie. You're being tricked right now. Hastur Sejanus goes, no, father, don't ignore him. He's an apparition. Oh yeah, apparition, this bitch. Blasts him, and he's revealed to be Erebus.
Yep.
It was actually Erebus doing his thing. Horus looks at him, he's like, I was just taking a form that would, you'd be comfortable with to guide you through this whole process. Magnus shows up, shows Horus that it's actually Erebus lying to him, tells him the truth of what's going on and what's actually going to happen, and he still turns.
Yep. I know.
He sees Magnus go, he looks at Magnus, goes, you're using the powers that Dad said not to use. I'm going with Erebus.
Right?
I mean, like, I know.
I mean, it's a little more to it. He's a little like, how can I trust you if you can't even like follow our father's words?
Yet you can trust the man standing beside you that was pretending to be a dead man that I revealed to you that was lying. Like he's literally lying to you.
Oh no, but those lies are okay because the heresy has to happen.
It makes me really wonder if deep down Horus really did want to like go through with all this, because there's been numerous opportunities throughout the beginning of the Horus Heresy and even before that where he has been exposed to this stuff and pretty much been told or warned or dropped a line or something to say like, this is a bad idea, chaos is real, they're horrible, all that stuff, and he still does it. And even with this blatant lying to his face and showing him like, no, this is like, I'm a psyker, I'm your brother, I can do these things, I can show you what my powers are like, you know me. But you're going to agree with him that Dad said don't use these powers, and you're going to go with him against Dad.
Well, I think that's what we've been talking about, is Horus had all of the skills and all of the information to not fall to chaos. I think you're right. I think he wanted to rebel, and whether or not he was willing to admit it, whether or not this was all like necessary to push him over the edge, and maybe that's partly why Erebus and Corpheron pick Horus as kind of their first target, because they know he's like 1 inch away from falling off the cliff. Yeah, because like as we find out a little later on, a few of the other Primarchs are like also 1 inch away from the cliff, but they won't bring anyone down with them. Horus will. Horus drags others down with him, and I think that's why it had to be him. But he was close. Like, Angron, Mortarion, Kurz were all just kind of, Lorgar after Monarchia, we're all just kind of looking for an excuse. Yeah. To not necessarily fall to chaos, but to rebel. Horus loved the Emperor, but then didn't love being War Master, didn't love the position it put him in, didn't love the difficulty, and he didn't, honestly, talking about some daddy issues, I don't think Horus liked that his father abandoned him.
He didn't. That was actually, there was a moment in the novels where he makes a comment to Gavio Loken that there are things that his father never confided in anybody, not even me. And you can tell that Horus is hurt. Like, he's actually hurt by the Emperor. The Emperor leaving Horus and abandoning him, that just goes along with it. Like, he does feel like he's alone. Just also made him very vulnerable, too.
Well, and on top of that, he sends Horus away, but then brings Dorn in. Which we know later on, Dorn isn't actually as in with the Emperor, but Horus doesn't know that.
Yeah, he thinks like, well, you just like right there you go. You just replace me just as easily as anything else.
Yeah,
I mean, like it doesn't make sense to me why he chose to go with Chaos when Magnus was proving it wrong, like showing him the truth. And then at the same time, it kind of does make sense because once he did take that step, he was shown a lot of things, which why we get that famous quote now that he says from GW. You stole power from the gods and lied to your sons.
But we don't actually see Horus using any of that power until after Istvan.
Yeah. Actually, I think it's actually more after what is it? Moloch.
Yeah.
With Moloch with the Chaos Gate, when he came through the gate and he went from old to being young and had all these weird new abilities and things were happening, like shadows are shifting around him.
Yeah. But I mean, he actually, like, there's other Chaos Primarchs before Horus. Like, Horus starts a rebellion. He doesn't start a Chaos rebellion.
No, yeah. The other Primarchs, they were chosen earlier because, like I was saying earlier, I think the Chaos Gods were picking their roster. They were preparing for their great game, and they were just choosing the pieces they wanted to play with. So while they're all focusing on Horus and giving Horus all this extra juice, Khorne's like, well, I really like the angel dudes, and I really like those crazy guys over there. I want them. I'm going to try to take them. And like vice versa, all the Chaos Gods went after 2 legions each, and they only managed to get 1.
And it's true, because 1,000 Suns are Tzeentch's second or third favorite legion, and it shows.
And then you have the 3 that really didn't turn to anybody, which was the Night Lords, the Iron Warriors, and the Alpha Legion. They actually have stayed relatively untouched by Chaos, which is one of the reasons why I refuse to put Possessed in my Night Lords army. As
you should.
They're great.
I play them for children, therefore they are crazy and you do whatever you want, because they're nuts. Yep. They have no rules. Rules are for loyalists.
Since we're having a little like Legion thing here, I find it very what is the word? Hypocritical when the Iron Warriors say, we don't like demons, we don't like chaos. If we get mutated, we cut the pieces off of us and then we put cybernetics in. But we have
as they stand in front of 700 demon engines.
Literally, yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. They'll cut their own stuff off, but they have no problem making demon engines.
I wouldn't let chaos in my body because my body's a temple. Well, what about that screaming like dog thing over there? Oh, that just has 17 blood letters in it.
Yes, let's just trap the demons and stuff them inside the machines and we can use them. Every Iron Warrior right there.
Cutting the tentacles off their arms as they say this.
Oh yeah, I remember one of them in one of the book series. It's describing him actually chopping the weird clawed arm off his body and putting a new augmetic arm on.
Yeah. But no, the Iron Warriors are a little bit hypocritical. You know what? The Night Lords are not. The Night Lords are what they are, and they knows what they is, and they is what they is.
Yeah. I do like that the Alpha Legion is slightly similar, where, yeah, they can be corrupted or they don't have to be corrupted. It's kind of like, their deal. They're just the ultimate survivors. I no longer believe that the Alpha Legion is really, truly about subterfuge and everything. They're the ultimate survivors right now.
I mean, what would be a better ploy than to tell everyone you're the best spies in the universe and then not actually, like, that's the best subterfuge. That's a plan within a plan right there. You're like, hey, we're the best spy Marines, and you're like, oh yeah, that must be what they're good at, and they're like, that's the thing we just tell everyone we're good at.
Yeah, they literally do that. There's sometimes they'll send messages to the Imperium that are encrypted, and it has nothing to do with anything, but they know they're gonna freak out and spend months and months and months trying to figure out what it is, and it's literally just a recipe for chicken soup.
It's
Alpha
true.
Legion's just like, I just like to flash with them.
There's the Council of Hytera is actually just a bunch of people pretending that they're not all Alfarius. But none of them know that the other ones are also Alpha Legion. So they all have to pretend that they're all still High Lords of Terra. Because they've hidden it so well from each other too that no one can know.
Yeah, they gave each one of them the letter and said, you're the only member on this council. It's all the council members. I love that. I can't let them know that I'm Alfarius. Meanwhile, every single one of them, I can't let them know I'm Alfarius.
Morven Val confirmed Alfarius.
Yeah.
Lord Solar
Rabute Gilliman confirmed Alfarius. Alfarius, not confirmed Alfarius.
Alfarius confirmed Omegon.
Yeah.
Omegon.
I like Nurgle Snurgle's theory where there's an actual third one. The third Hydra head. Yeah. I like that.
I just want to see Alfarius come back as a demon prince, but then Omegon be like a not demon prince. No, but still be like a chaos, but like have a chaos Primarch scale Primarch. So you could have both. You could have like the Hydra demon prince, but then also have the like Omegon as like a Guilliman sized Primarch. This would be like 20 years from now, but I think that'd be really cool.
I mean, yeah. Well, we're already lining up to have our Fulgrim show up at some point, which would be lovely. I really do hope they do make all of the demon Primarchs. They can't not. There's no, like, what is it? There's only 2 left after this, isn't there? After Fulgrim, it's just Perturabo.
Omegon's left, Perturabo, Lorgar.
That's it. Everyone else is dead. Technically, yeah.
I mean, it sounds like Korax is also a demon prince, so.
I believe he is. Like, I can see him being a demon prince. I don't know if he'll ever come back.
I don't think he's like, I think he is a demon prince of the Emperor, but I do think he is a demon prince.
Well, in that case, then so is Wolf Boy, Russ. You know Russ is going to come back as some big old werewolf-looking dude.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I don't use axes anymore. I use my fists, my claws, and my teeth.
His claws actually are axes. He like sharpens
just
them out
into axes.
so that.
Oh my goodness, he's like twice the size of a dreadnought, but
he's 1 inch tall, or sorry, he's like 1 centimeter taller than Magnus, just so that he's taller than Magnus.
Now the question is, do you think we'll ever see how are we ever going to see the Khan, Sanguinius, and Vulcan come back?
I think the Khan can come back pretty easily. So can Vulcan. Vulcan's an easy one to bring back. Sanguinius would be Demon Prince-y, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think so.
And
I really do I would love to see them all come back at some point.
Except Horus.
Really
I don't want to see Horus come back.
No. F Horus. He's a dick.
Horus
stupid.
Sucks. He's a stupid guy.
Horus was a big old fat turkey put on the dinner table, and everyone had a bite, and he got thrown in the garbage. It was like,
it's true.
So full.
But yeah, I guess to somewhat culminate False Gods. Basically, after this, Horus wakes up and then goes on a murder spree because he's committed. He's going to rebel. They go and attack the Oretian technocracy, I think it's called.
Yes, these lovely people who are very, very close to being like the Mechanicus, if I remember correctly.
But without being weird about it. Like, they have a bunch of advanced like STLs or STCs, and they have advanced technology, but they also aren't like weird and ritualistic about it. I think they actually understand a lot of the technology they have.
Yeah, it's not like the Imperium where they're like humana, humana, humana. They're like, no, you flick the switch, you hit that button, and it starts. Pretty simple.
I I saw.
They basically met scientists.
Yes, I saw a meme once, and it was there's this guy talking. He was just like, he's like the hot tub in my building. All of the buttons are worn off, but I've figured out what each of them does, so that I can just like. I can still operate the hot tub. And he's like, and I've never understood how the AdMech works so much better than in this moment of realization. He's like, I don't know what they say, but I know how it works, and I can make the thing work. And I'm like, that is the end. They understand nothing.
And rather than put marks on the buttons, rather than put new marks on the buttons, like just so everyone knows how to use it, like, you know what? I'm gonna pray to this thing right here. I'm just gonna pray to these buttons before I start pressing them.
The rituals will be upheld.
I'm gonna give it an oil bath.
The incense is a very important part of computer science.
Yes. But yeah, there's something that these in the technocracy, it sets Horus off, which gives him an excuse to start killing everybody.
Well, they send him ambassadors, and he says, "Oh, actually, they did an assassination attempt, so I'm just going to destroy you."
Well, no, wasn't it the what was it? They landed on the planet very diplomatically, and they met the leader of the planet, and they had a little conversation. But they noticed something, the Marines did. They noticed that there were soldiers there that looked just like them. Like, identical to them. Same armor, same weapons, same gear, everything. And they were impressed by it. And when Horus asked the leader of the planet, he said, oh, those are our... I can't remember the name that he called them. I think it was similar to Thunder Warriors, but... he described them as being the constructs that we create to defend our cities. And Horus was kind of taken aback and goes, construct machines? You made construct machines like AI? Yes, we did. It was wonderful. Pulls his pistol out, shoots the guy in the head, and war begins.
Yeah.
And that's the first taste of like that Horus is chosen this path. Because normally he would probably try to talk things out. Abaddon is the one.
He ain't got time for that anymore.
No, Abaddon is usually the one that's telling Horus, "Hey, these guys aren't for the Imperium. Shoot them in the face." And he's the one to be, "Let's not shoot them in the face. Let's calm down, talk to them. Maybe we can learn something before we decide to, blow them up." Now Horus is just blowing them up.
Yeah,
he's not asking questions. It was an excuse for him to start a war, to kind of cover up what he's doing, because he still is being very secretive of what he's doing. But it's perfect. This is an excuse. Oh well, I don't need to say anything else. Just kill.
Yeah, well, because he knew what he wanted. That's why he showed up there.
Yeah,
he wanted to get the AdMech on his side, so he needed to have something to bargain with.
Yeah, and when he found out they had AI and STCs and all this other really good stuff, this is a very, very good late down the road bargaining chip he can use. So I'm just going to kill these guys and take it.
Yeah. And he does, because he's Horus and he has the ability and the skills and the...
Yep. Because right now when it seems like it's just starting off, he's hatching this plan in the back of his mind and creating all the scenarios and thinking about everything he has to do and what he needs to acquire and what he needs to destroy and who he needs to detain and distract and what he needs to get done to make sure his plan comes to fruition.
Well, because he also has the ability to set up all the loyalist pieces where he wants them to.
Yeah.
Because he knows who the loyalists are too.
Yep. As of right, like, maybe not right now, but later on, like, nearing the third book, there is enough time that's passed that he has definitely figured out who's going to be on his side.
Well, no, he sees it.
Away. He sees it?
In
his dream vision. Right, from the...
He knows who's loyal or not.
Right, because the statues that were left were only the ones that were on the Emperor's side. I'd never even thought of that. Wow.
Yeah, no, he knows from the very beginning what pieces he can acquire. And because if you notice, he doesn't waste any time trying to convince any of the loyalists.
No, he does. Yeah, he does it really, really quickly. I thought that was just because of his natural ability of his natural charismatic ability to like control things verbally, like Horus always has. I didn't think of that. He knew exactly which brothers to go to.
Yeah, the Chaos Gods gave him a list.
Yeah. Now there was still some risk. Like, who's to say? Like, maybe unless the gods got really specific afterwards. But who's to say? Like, maybe some of those brothers were on his father's side and they just died during the war. But you are right. He did have a basic like go-to list of these are the guys that are not there, so they're the ones who I'm going to go talk to first.
Yep.
Yeah. And I definitely believe that Erebus was, again, spear tipping that whole thing, because as we move into the third book later on, right off the bat, it's described that he's not talking to anybody anymore except Erebus. He's only in council with Erebus, in private council, and that's where all the plan is being hatched. He's making all these connections and contacts.
I think he occasionally talks to Abaddon because Abaddon is very much a lapdog at this point.
Yeah, Abaddon
kind of pseudo becomes in charge of the Sons of Horus, because not necessarily that he listens to Abaddon, but Abaddon kind of becomes his mouthpiece. Him and Malagar are kind of what
really starts driving things forward.
We also haven't talked about
and Horus Axament too. He like really changes into like surprisingly a bit of a leader, it's kind of funny.
Do you remember the name of the Luna Wolf who is Terran born through the first few books that Loken talks to a few times? I can't remember off the top of my head his name.
Is Iacton Cruz, also known as the Half Herd.
Yes, one of the things we haven't talked about in either of these is actually he's very much like a Rylanor-esque figure.
Yeah, really, really old. He was around like when the legions were first being formed.
And Loken talks to him. I think it actually happens a few times in False Gods, more so in the next book. But he also provides a bit of a like something ain't right.
Yeah, he doesn't feel like things are right. He's just his old instincts are kicking in to be like, doesn't feel right about this.
Yeah,
something's off.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy, and I just remembered him. I wanted to bring him up. But yeah, as we kind of come through to the end, they start making plans for Istvan, which we know is a bad time for a lot of them.
Yep, you have Horus literally saying, "I will set the ambush at Istvan," and that's how it ends at that point.
Oh,
I like Iacton Cruz. I wish he had more of a part.
You know what though? Those characters only work if they have a small part. You can't be the like wise old grizzled man who then is also there all the time.
He does play a pivotal role later on in the books, and other things happen, but we won't get.
But he needs some time to be to get built up.
Yeah, it's like Game of Thrones. You gotta have time to love the character.
Exactly.
And then
before
happens.
They definitely live.
Yeah, they totally live, guys. No one dies in the series. This is not like Game of Thrones at all. You're not going to get attached to any of these characters whatsoever. I totally didn't.
So what would you give your review as?
As always with these series, 5 out of 5. I love the book. The first 3 books I could read over and over and over again. This was one where it was very much like suspense. A lot of suspense, a lot of thrill throughout the entire book, and then the last realization that something big is going to happen, like the climax is coming. This book made me just like, I went psycho. I wanted to read the next book as fast as possible to know what was happening. It left me on a really good cliffhanger. Great book.
I think I might change my rating system to out of 10, because I feel like the difference between 4 and 5 sounds too big. But this Horus Rising is really it is superb, and I would say False Gods is not quite as good. I would say it's maybe a 9.5 Anathame Blades out of 10.
Okay. Nice.
I think there
And
is
the same blades.
Yeah, the first book just also flow. Like I talked about this last time. The first book flows so well. There's a lot of structure. False Gods actually has less going on and meanders a little more through some of it.
That is true, yeah.
You get a lot more, like, not even necessarily that there's less action, though there is. That's not necessarily an issue.
They're trying to
end up kind of like. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say they're trying to fit one small moment into an entire book.
Yeah, but because of that, you kind of have like Loken does a Whisperheads again.
Yes.
It's kind of like people have to kind of repeat things a couple times that doesn't happen in Horus, or things that happened in Horus Rising. There's a little bit of redundancy because everyone kind of needs to be at these certain points in order to have the big watershed dream sequence with Horus. And even like Loken is part of the group that like massacres all the civilians, bringing Horus in, which feels weird because he's already like uncertain, and it feels weird for him to kind of like lose his mind in the same way.
Yeah, I agree.
So there's a few things that you're kind of like, this feels a little less than like perfect. I don't know if it's perfect. It's excellent, but it's not perfect.
I can get behind that. I think I'm just a massive fan of the whole instance there where Horus goes traitor, and even though that one moment is irritating as hell, I think that's maybe why I like it so much, because it makes me come back and it makes me irritated that he did not see that coming. So yeah, I still stick with it, but I get that. Yeah.
No, and really there's a lot of good foreshadowing. There's, like I said, it's a salt, like 9.5 is not a low score.
No, not at all. It's like just it didn't have that little bit of sugar on top, but it was still a fantastic meal.
I feel like Horus Rising had the sprinkles.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
You go
through Horus Rising. I do find Graham McNeil is maybe not quite as fluid of a writer as Dan Abnett is. Again, it's we're nitpicking at this point, and to be able to nitpick a Black Library book generally means it's quite good, because that means there weren't a lot of glaring problems with it, which a lot of Black Library books do have.
That is very true.
So yeah, no, we're sitting in very solid territory, and I think some of Graham McNeil's later books with the Horus Heresy are not as clean as this one. So yeah,
definitely not. No, you're right.
Anyways,
yeah,
still an excellent book, worth checking out, and thus culminates.
I agree. If you're gonna read anything, you've got to read the series, and these two first books are going to be an amazing read for you.
Well, and then you're once you get through the first two, then you're kind of on the path of getting to the next few.
Yeah. The cliffhanger is real. Once you finish this one, you're going to want to read the third one right away.
It's true. It's a if you've read Horus Rising and liked it, I would pick up False Gods and what is the third one?
Galaxy in Flames.
Galaxy in Flames. Yeah, I think
I'm looking forward to that one.
And then really, Galaxy in Flames gets you through the next two. The first 5 books are excellent.
Yep, I agree. All right.
Any last thoughts? You know what? This one's a long one. No last thoughts allowed.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm kidding.
Last thoughts. Horus is an idiot.
Horus is an idiot.
Yeah, he's an absolute idiot.
The more we're going back to these, and the more I'm kind of like rethinking about them, the more you realize like Horus is a tool through all of these.
He is. He really is. He gets a little bit likable in some spots, but it's just he turns to an absolute tool and idiot, because you saw it coming, dude, but you still didn't do anything about it. You knew this, like you had more information than probably most anybody else, and you still didn't do anything about it.
Well, and actually, in the end, Fabius Bile takes the Anathame Blade, gives it to Fulgrim.
Right.
So, like, that's not really a tool Fulgrim should have. And
no, I didn't. I thought Erebus breaks it.
Fabius takes, I think, the pieces of it and gives it to Fulgrim.
Yes, Fulgrim did. Yeah, Fulgrim does.
Fulgrim, because I think that's what he uses to kill Guilliman.
No, it was Corphaeron. Oh no! Wait, no, wait. To kill him.
Like after the heresy, when Fulgrim goes to kill Guilliman and almost succeeds, I think it's the Anathame Blade.
You might be right. I'd have to go. I only vaguely listened to that story. It was either the Anathame Blade or it was one of his like demonic blades. But you are definitely right about that, because I know Erebus shattered the Anathame because it was more of a sword than a blade. But he cracked that sucker into several pieces and handed them out to a bunch of different people.
Yeah. But Fabius Mal gets some and gives it to Fulgrim.
Love that.
Yeah.
That thing should not it should not be out there.
Definitely not with Fulgrim.
Funny fact. I believe it was I want to say the 7th edition Chaos Marine Codex book, where one of the artifacts you could take for one of your Chaos Lords was called the Black Blade. And the subtext said, this blade was once believed to be the actual blade that brought Horus low. So your model actually gets a small piece of the Anathame sword, and you gave up all of your attacks for a single attack, and if you nailed it, instant death. You didn't have to wound, you just had to hit. That was it. Just whack.
That'd be nice.
Yep. That'd be really nice. I love that. That'd be great.
Chaos Lord and Terminator armor with one attack.
Yeah. So just with a knife. You're bringing a knife to a gunfight, but it is the most awful knife you have ever seen in your entire life. And not in a bad way, in the best way possible.
Like, oh, Canis Rex. That's a nice 22 wounds you have.
Yep. Now just takes the knife, like, what are you going to do with that little knife? Hucks it at his head. Oh my god!
So, oh, that's a nice Wraith Knight you got there. Shame if something happened to it.
I am so going to make that. I'm going to make a Chaos Lord that's just jacked up with a whole bunch of weapons on his backpack, and he's literally holding a knife.
Yeah, like a tiny little, like...
yeah, just a little, like a shiv. A little shiv that looks like, what was it? The Anathame was described to look like obsidian. So yeah, just a little obsidian dagger.
Also, I played in a GT this weekend, and I brought the Silver Knight with me.
Ooh.
And the few people that appreciated him, and it was worth it.
Wonderful.
Those people are like, why do you have a Grey Knight? And I was like, oh, he's a Silver Knight. And they'd be like,
oh, the Silver Knight. They're like, I know. Okay, all right. There you go.
Right.
Like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
That's all I got for my last word.
That's all we got? Well, next up is Galaxy in Flames.
Yes. Galaxy in Flames. We'll be back next time with the final conclusion of the 3-part series of the first books of the Horus Heresy.
Oh, we're hitting BloodGod's book club off with a bang.
Yep.
But in the meantime, I want to thank you for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to Chaos Divided wherever you're listening from. You can find us on Instagram and YouTube at Chaos Divided 40K. If you're a fan of what we're doing, want to join our growing Wholesome Hammer community, you can find us at patreon.com/Chaos Divided 40K and help support the show. And if you want to connect with us all directly, we're at Team BloodGod, at Nurgle_Snurgle, and at Blushing Noisebrain on Instagram and YouTube. And until next time, bye-bye.
Bye, everybody, and play the jazz music.